At 2:13 in the morning, Cinder woke Sam Mercer before the fire did. The German shepherd stood beside the bedroom door. Rigid. Silent. His head was turned toward the distant hills. Sam opened his eyes. Cinder did not look at him. He was listening. Then the dog lowered his head. A low breath. Nothing else. Sam reached for his old field watch. 2:13 a.m. Then he saw it. An orange glow beyond the trees. Too bright. Too steady. Sam was already out of bed. He pulled on his boots. Cinder followed. The truck started on the second try. The road into Bellwether was empty. Fog lay across the blacktop. Then the sirens began. By the time Sam reached the Veterans Hall, flames were punching through the roof. Red engines filled the narrow road. Smoke rolled over the old brick walls. Men shouted. Water hammered the windows. And beside a patrol car stood a young man in handcuffs. Marcus Bell. 24 years old. Recently discharged from the army. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. Someone pointed at him. That's him. Another voice shouted. He started it. Marcus looked toward the burning building. I didn't do this. Nobody listened. Sam stepped out of his truck. Cinder jumped down beside him. The dog stared at the fire. Then he pulled hard against the leash. Sam tightened his grip. Cinder. The dog moved toward the rear of the building. Not toward Marcus. Not toward the firefighters. Toward the smoke. Cinder's coat rose along his spine. He lowered his head. His mouth closed. Then he stopped. One paw lifted. One sharp bark. Sam stared at him. He knew that signal. He had seen it in collapsed buildings. After tornadoes. Near flooded homes. At disaster sites where ordinary eyes saw nothing. Cinder had smelled something. Something the fire had not erased. Sam looked at the blackened wall. Then at the dog. And quietly, almost to himself, he said. That's not an accident. He could have gotten back into his truck. He could have driven home. He could have told himself that retirement meant exactly what the word promised. But some instincts do not retire. And some wounds do not let a man walk away. And this is where everything changed. 3 months earlier, Sam Mercer had been a man who lived by routine because routine was easier than remembering. He had spent 22 years in the United States Air Force, most of them as a pararescueman. A PJ. His work had taken him into places where other people were trying desperately to get out. Mountain crashes. Flooded valleys. Burning aircraft. Wilderness rescues. Bad weather. Worse decisions. He had learned how to read terrain quickly, how to stop bleeding with whatever was available, how to navigate when visibility disappeared, and how to keep his hands steady while everyone around him was losing control. He had also learned something nobody put in a training manual. Sometimes you arrive too late. Sam was 56 now. 6 feet 1. Lean. Weathered. Broad through the shoulders, though years of strain had taken something from his strength. His skin had been darkened by decades of sun and wind. Gray-blue eyes sat beneath deep lines. His hair was close-cropped and iron-gray. A short salt and pepper beard covered a slightly crooked nose that had been broken years ago. A faded surgical scar ran along his right forearm. And when his left knee began to ache, he favored it without thinking. Most people in Bellwether described Sam with one word. Quiet. They were right. Every morning before sunrise, Sam walked the 12-acre property surrounding his former ranger residence. He carried a dented metal mug of coffee. He checked the weather instruments mounted outside the workshop. Wind direction. Temperature. Humidity. Barometric pressure. Old habits. Then he split firewood. He repaired fences. He tightened bolts that did not need tightening. He fixed things because broken things gave him instructions. People did not. At dinner, he sat at the same kitchen table. There were old service photographs on a shelf nearby. Sam kept them turned face down. Not hidden. Just turned away. There was one photograph he never moved. He simply never looked at it. 11 years earlier, during a mountain rescue, Sam had been responsible for an injured airman stranded in dangerous terrain. The weather closed in. The extraction helicopter had been forced away. Sam had done everything he could. The airman survived. But in Sam's mind, survival was not the same as success. For 11 years, one thought had followed him. I left him there. It did not matter that the helicopter could not safely return. It did not matter that other rescuers completed the evacuation. Sam had decided the failure belonged to him. And because he believed accepting help was the same as admitting failure, he slowly stopped accepting help from anyone. Then Cinder arrived. Cinder was a large German shepherd with a smoky charcoal saddle fading into deep mahogany along his shoulders and ribs. His muzzle and legs carried muted copper coloring. A narrow cream-colored blaze showed beneath his throat. His winter coat made him look almost wolf-like. His eyes were dark amber, surrounded by a faint green-gold ring. Around his neck was a weathered brown leather collar. Attached to it was a brushed steel Air Force pararescue insignia. And beside the insignia hung a small red rescue whistle. Cinder had once been a working disaster search dog. He had searched after tornadoes, floods, collapsed structures. He had worked beside emergency teams until helicopter rotors began triggering severe anxiety. He was retired early. Sam agreed to foster him for 2 weeks. That was 4 years ago. 2 weeks became a month. A month became a year. And eventually Sam stopped pretending Cinder was temporary. The dog slept beside the bedroom door. He followed Sam through the woods. He waited outside the workshop. And he never demanded conversation. That was important. Sam could speak to Cinder without explaining himself. One winter morning, Sam discovered just how unusual the dog still was. A storm had knocked down several trees. While Sam cleared a path, Cinder stopped. He lowered his head. Moved 3 feet left. Stopped again. Then he began working a strange zigzag pattern through the snow. Sam followed. Under a fallen branch was a hiker's backpack. There was nobody nearby. Inside were medication bottles and a folded map. Sam called the sheriff. 2 hours later, a rescue team found a hiker nearly a mile away, unconscious beside a creek. Cinder had tracked the scent from the backpack. Sam never forgot that. Neither did the people who saw it. But Sam still told himself he was retired. Then there was Naomi Bell. Naomi was 62. She wore denim overalls, bright patterned blouses, and a mustard yellow headscarf wrapped around silver-gray curls. She had expressive dark eyes and a small crescent-shaped scar near her left eyebrow. For 27 years, she had volunteered at the Bellwether Veterans Memorial Hall. She was the caretaker. The treasurer. The person who knew which key opened which door. She carried an old red metal lunchbox filled with keys, receipts, and handwritten notes. Naomi was one of the few people who refused to let Sam disappear. Sometimes she brought him leftovers. Sometimes she brought coffee. Sometimes she simply sat on his porch until he became uncomfortable enough to talk. One afternoon, she brought something different. Paperwork. Insurance paperwork. She told Sam the Veterans Hall had been involved in several suspicious property claims. She had seen names repeated. Addresses repeated. Payments that did not make sense. One name appeared more often than the others. Russell Vane. Sam listened. Then he handed the papers back. I'm retired, Naomi. She studied him. I didn't ask you to go back to war. Sam looked toward the trees. Feels like the same thing sometimes. Naomi did not argue. She only said. Maybe somebody needs you to remember what you know. Sam said nothing. Cinder lifted his head. He was watching the road. At the time, Sam thought nothing of it. He would remember that moment later. Because Cinder had noticed something before he did. He usually did. And 3 months later, at 2:13 in the morning, the Veterans Hall would burn. The fire destroyed almost everything. The old meeting room. The kitchen. The storage cabinets. The wooden display cases holding photographs from 50 years of bellwether veterans. The memorial plaques survived only because they had been mounted on the stone interior wall. Barely. By sunrise, the roof was gone. The town stood around the ruins in silence. American flags hung limp in the damp morning air. Volunteer firefighters moved through the smoke. Sam stood behind the perimeter tape. Cinder stood beside him. The dog was watching the burned building. Not the people. The building. Marcus Bell sat in the back of a patrol car. Naomi stood near the road. She looked exhausted. Sam walked toward her. What happened? Naomi shook her head. They say Marcus was here. Was he? He was. Sam waited. She looked at the ground. He came to return a set of tools. He'd argued with 2 board members earlier. Somebody saw him outside. Did he start the fire? No. Naomi said it immediately. No hesitation. Then why is he in handcuffs? Because someone needed a story before the smoke cleared. That was when Russell Vane arrived. He stepped from a dark sedan wearing an immaculate navy overcoat. Not a speck of ash on it. Not a crease out of place. He was 52, tall and narrow-framed, with silver blonde hair combed perfectly back. Rectangular glasses. Pale skin. Sharp hazel eyes. A leather portfolio in one hand. He introduced himself as the insurance investigator. He studied the ruins. Then he studied Marcus. This appears consistent with an emotionally charged incident, Russell said. Sam looked at him. You're certain? Russell smiled. I've handled 47 rural property claims in this region. 47. Sam remembered the number. He also noticed that Russell had not looked at the fire pattern for more than a few seconds. Cinder suddenly moved. The dog's shoulders dropped. His nose went low. He crossed the wet grass in a straight line. Sam followed. Cinder stopped near the rear wall. His body became completely still. One paw rose. He looked at Sam. One bark. Sam crouched. What is it? Cinder refused to move. Sam smelled smoke. Wet brick. Burned wood. Metal. Then something else. Chemical. Sharp. Familiar. Sam's expression changed. Accelerant. A fire marshal approached. Sam explained what Cinder had detected. Russell stepped closer. That dog is retired. Sam looked up. So. Retired animals can have unreliable responses. Sam stood. I know what that response means. Russell smiled again. You know what you want it to mean. That sentence stayed with Sam. Naomi stepped forward. Sam. He looked at her. Marcus needs help. Sam looked toward the patrol car. The young veteran sat with his head against the window. His army discharge papers were folded in his lap. He looked 24 years old. But in that moment, he looked much younger. Sam had a choice. He could walk away. He could return to his quiet house. He could let investigators handle it. He could tell himself that retirement meant someone else's problem. Instead, he looked at Cinder. The dog was still staring at the burned wall. Sam sighed. All right. He turned toward Naomi. But if we do this, we do it carefully. Naomi nodded. Sam looked once more at the hall. Then at Marcus. Then at Cinder. He knew the moment had arrived. There would be no going back. The first problem was the fire. The second problem was that somebody wanted everyone to believe it had been an accident. The third problem was that somebody had already chosen a person to blame. Sam began with the one thing he trusted. Cinder. The dog returned to the rear of the veterans' hall the next morning. The rain had stopped. The ground was cold. Mist hung low over the hills. Cinder worked slowly. Shoulders lowered. Nose inches above the surface. 3 steps. Pause. 4 steps. Pause. Then a sharp turn. He moved toward a storm drain behind the building. He stopped. One paw forward. One bark. Sam crouched beside him. There was residue around the drain. Not much. But enough. A small discarded ignition device lay beneath wet leaves. Sam did not touch it. He photographed it. Marked its location. Called the fire marshal. Cinder had found the first piece of evidence. And suddenly the accident theory had a problem. The fire had not simply started. It had been fed. Sam studied the burn pattern. Multiple points. Different areas. A deliberate spread. Someone had wanted the building gone. Naomi brought him the next problem. She opened her red lunchbox on Sam's kitchen table. Inside was a handwritten ledger. She had kept it hidden for months. These are the claims, she said. Sam turned the pages. 1 house. 1 barn. 1 warehouse. Another rural property. Different owners. Different fires. Same investigator. Russell Vane. Sam counted the entries. 47. He looked up. How much? Naomi tapped the ledger. At least $2 million in claims. Sam went quiet. $2 million was not an accident. It was a business model. Naomi told him she had reported the suspicious paperwork to the county. The complaint disappeared. She had photographed some documents. Someone broke into her home. The photographs were gone. The originals were gone. But she had kept the handwritten ledger in her kitchen because, as she put it, paper can be stolen. Memory is harder. Sam looked at the names. Several properties were clustered around the same expanding commercial corridor. The Veterans Hall sat on valuable land. The old railroad spur ran behind it. A new development was being planned nearby. Sam understood. Russell was not simply collecting insurance money. He was creating damaged properties that could later be acquired cheaply. The hall was worth more empty than occupied. That made Marcus's arrest even more useful. A frightened young veteran could become the entire explanation. Sam and Naomi went to the county courthouse. Russell was already there. He stood on the steps with his leather portfolio. Mr. Mercer. Sam stopped. You know my name. I know everybody involved in this claim. Russell smiled. You should let the professionals handle it. Sam looked at him. That's what professionals are for. Russell's smile disappeared. Exactly. Inside, they requested property records. A county clerk hesitated. Then looked toward the hallway. A few minutes later, an official quietly approached Sam. You need to stop. Sam stared at him. Why? Because you're making people nervous. Who? The official said nothing. Sam understood. Fear had already spread. Then came the pressure on Marcus. The young man was offered a deal. Sign a confession. Accept a reduced charge. Avoid a longer sentence. Marcus refused. Sam found him sitting alone in a courthouse hallway. Marcus looked at him. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Sam sat beside him. Tell the truth. What if nobody believes me? Sam had no easy answer. Because that question belonged to him, too. For 11 years, Sam had carried the belief that truth did not matter if you thought you had failed. He stood. And walked away. Then Cinder found something else. Behind the insurance office was a trash container. Cinder approached it. Stopped. His head lowered. His eyes fixed on a discarded work jacket. He froze. One paw rose. One bark. Sam examined the jacket without touching it. There was a chemical odor. The same odor Cinder had detected at the hall. A contractor's jacket. Discarded recently. Someone had tried to remove evidence. Sam called Naomi. Then he called the fire marshal. Russell found out. That night, Sam returned home. The workshop door was open. He stopped in the driveway. Cinder stopped first. Sam looked at the house. Nothing appeared broken. He entered slowly. His workshop was disturbed. His service medals were scattered across the floor. His old photographs had been pulled from a drawer. Nothing valuable was missing. Not the tools. Not the radio. Not the cash. Only memories. Sam stood in the doorway. Cinder moved beside him. Sam picked up one medal. His hands shook. He had seen that room in another life. He had seen people panic. He had seen equipment fail. He had seen a helicopter disappear into weather. And now, after 11 years, the same old question returned. What if I had done more? Sam sat on the floor. He stared at the medal. I already failed one man. His voice was quiet. I'm not getting somebody else hurt because I couldn't let go. Cinder walked away. Sam did not move. The dog returned a moment later. Something hung from his mouth. Sam recognized it. His old red rescue whistle. Cinder placed it at his feet. Then he sat. Sam looked at the whistle. Then at the dog. Cinder did not bark. He did not move. He simply waited. For the first time in years, Sam understood something. The dog was not asking him to forget what happened. He was asking him to use what remained. Sam picked up the whistle. His fingers closed around it. You really don't know when to quit, do you? Cinder blinked. Sam almost smiled. Then the investigation changed. Sam and Naomi compared the ledger with public property records. The shell companies were hidden behind layers of names. But patterns remained. Same addresses. Same claims. Same investigator. Same timing. The properties were damaged. Insurance paid. Ownership changed. Then development followed. The Veterans Hall fit the pattern perfectly. Russell Vane was not investigating the fires. He was creating them. Sam and Naomi sent copies of everything to a state insurance fraud division. They also gave the fire marshal their evidence. But they still needed proof connecting Russell directly to the ignition devices. Russell knew that. And he became more aggressive. He called Sam unstable. He hinted that Sam's military history explained his behavior. He told Naomi that if she continued making accusations, she could lose her home. He even suggested that Marcus's army service showed he had anger issues. Sam heard that last part. He nearly lost his temper. Naomi stopped him. That's what he wants. Sam breathed. Cinder stood beside him. Then the phone rang. A state investigator had received the documents. They wanted the original ledger. Naomi agreed. But before they could deliver it, Russell made his final move. He learned that one more piece of evidence existed. A security camera recording. The camera belonged to a closed hardware store near the old railroad spur. It had captured a vehicle behind the Veterans Hall the night of the fire. The recording was scheduled to be overwritten at midnight. Sam and Naomi had less than 3 hours. They drove toward the old railroad spur. Cinder sat in the back seat. The hills were dark. Rain began. And Sam realized the entire case had narrowed to one piece of evidence. One recording. One night. One man trying to erase everything. For 11 years, Sam had believed his greatest failure was leaving someone behind. Now he had another choice. Leave this alone. Or go back in. He tightened his hands around the steering wheel. Cinder lifted his head. Sam looked at him in the mirror. All right, buddy. The truck disappeared into the rain. The old maintenance building stood beside the railroad spur. Dark. Empty. Rain hammered the roof. Sam parked without headlights. Cinder jumped down. The dog froze. He had detected something. Sam followed his gaze. A faint light moved inside. Someone was there. Sam signaled for Cinder to stay. Then the door opened. Russell Vane stepped outside. He held a leather case. You should have gone home. Sam said nothing. Russell looked at Cinder. That animal has caused me a great deal of trouble. Sam stepped forward. You burned the hull. Russell smiled. One building. 47 claims. Russell's expression changed. Sam knew he had hit the mark. Russell looked toward the dark hills. The land was worthless to people who couldn't maintain it. You burned it. I improved it. Sam shook his head. You blamed Marcus. He was convenient. Russell opened the case. Inside were documents. Photos. Property records. And the missing evidence. Then Russell pulled out a container. Cinder reacted immediately. His head dropped. His mouth closed. His body became rigid. One paw lifted. Sam knew. Accelerant. Russell saw the dog's reaction. Smart animal. He struck a match. Sam moved. Russell dropped the match. Fire raced across the floor. Sam shoved the door open. Smoke filled the room. Then the door slammed shut behind him. Locked. Cinder moved. Search mode. Head low. Shoulders down. Fast. He pulled toward a stack of equipment. Sam followed. There was a narrow opening near the floor. Cinder squeezed through. Sam dropped to his knees. The opening led outside. Sam pushed through. He rolled into the rain. Cinder followed. Sam got up. Russell was running toward the railroad spur. Sam moved after him. Not recklessly. Not blindly. Like a rescuer. Like a man who had spent 22 years learning how to stay calm while everything around him fell apart. Russell reached the road. Cinder cut across his path. The dog stopped directly in front of him. Russell froze. Behind him stood Sam. Don't move. Russell looked around. Sirens. Naomi had sent the evidence before they arrived. State investigators were already coming. County deputies pulled in. The fire marshal stepped out. Russell looked at the container in his hand. Then at the burning building. Then at Cinder. He dropped it. The deputies arrested him. Arson. Insurance fraud. Conspiracy. Evidence tampering. Attempted destruction of evidence. The case did not end there. The 47 suspicious claims were reopened. Russell's license was revoked. His shell companies were investigated. The properties were frozen. Marcus Bell was cleared. And the fire marshal formally documented Cinder's accelerant detections as part of the investigation. But there was one more thing. The hardware store camera. It had recorded Russell's vehicle. Time stamp. 2:01 a.m. The same night. The same road. The same vehicle. The evidence was undeniable. Marcus had not started the fire. Sam had not imagined the pattern. And Cinder had not been wrong. For the first time in 11 years, Sam stood in front of other people and heard someone say, "You did the right thing." He looked at Cinder. The dog stood beside him. Quiet. Steady. Waiting. Sam reached down. His hand rested on Cinder's head. And this time, he did not pull away. 3 months passed. Then 4. The Veterans Hall did not return exactly as it had been. The town decided it should become something larger. The original brick facade was restored. The stone memorial wall was repaired. New windows were installed. The old meeting room became a community room. A small kitchen returned. And the building was renamed the Bellwether Veterans Community Center. Marcus Bell helped rebuild it. He worked weekends. Then weekdays. He learned carpentry from one of the retired veterans. He repaired the doors. Painted the trim. Installed shelves. The young man who had once sat in handcuffs outside the burning hall now kept a set of keys behind the front desk. Naomi remained the heart of the place. Her old red lunchbox sat in a drawer beneath the reception desk. Inside were keys. Receipts. Handwritten notes. And one photograph of the hall before the fire. Sam began volunteering again. Not because anyone asked him to. Because one morning, he woke before sunrise and realized he wanted to. He started helping with wilderness rescue training. Navigation. Emergency triage. Search patterns. Weather awareness. He taught young volunteers how to remain calm when fear made every decision feel urgent. He never taught them that failure was impossible. He taught them what to do after something went wrong. Cinder came too. The dog became the unofficial mascot of the center. People brought him treats. Children learned not to distract him when he was working. Veterans sat beside him when they did not feel like talking. Cinder seemed to understand. Some wounds do not need conversation. Sometimes they need presence. One autumn evening, Sam walked through the restored hall with Cinder beside him. The building smelled of fresh wood. Coffee. Old brick warmed by the day's sunlight. Outside, leaves moved across the pavement. Inside, someone was laughing in the kitchen. A radio played softly from another room. The lights were warm. The windows glowed against the darkening Kentucky hills. Sam stopped beside a new memorial plaque. It honored veterans who had returned home carrying wounds nobody could see. Sam touched the metal. He stood there for a long time. Cinder nudged his hand. Sam looked down. A small smile appeared. "Yeah, buddy." He rubbed the dog's ears. "I know." For 11 years, Sam had kept his old rescue whistle hidden in a drawer. Now it hung beside his front door. Not because the past had disappeared. It hadn't. The mountain rescue still lived somewhere inside him. The fear still visited. The memory still hurt. But it no longer controlled the door. Sam had finally understood that surviving something did not make him a failure. And needing other people did not make him weak. Sometimes the bravest thing a rescuer can do is admit that he, too, needs someone beside him. For Sam, that someone had 4 legs. Dark amber eyes. A weathered brown collar. And a small red rescue whistle. Cinder had not saved Sam by erasing his past. He had saved him by refusing to let Sam abandon his future. That evening, Sam turned off the last light. Cinder walked beside him. The door closed softly behind them. And for the first time in 11 years, Sam walked home without looking back. Sometimes the one who notices the danger first is the one everyone else is willing to ignore. Cinder reminds us that loyalty means staying beside someone long enough for them to remember what they are still capable of doing. If this story touched your heart, drop an amen in the comments below. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe, because we have more stories like this. One coming every week. God bless you. And God bless Cinder, the rescue dog who refused to let Sam walk away.